Has anyone actually ever had sex with one of their friends' moms, or is that just a porno thing? If so, did your/their friend find out about it? I've had sex with my kid's mom. Totally grosses him out. One of my best friends has an unusual slant on this. When his dad gets swanked, he's famed for enraging his son by dancing around him shouting, "I've ked your mum." One of my friend's moms is younger than most moms of kids our age, 21 at the time. She is also sort of hot and a bit of a lush. She came to visit at college and he had a house party and another guy who hung around a lot banged her. It was pretty funny, but it really bothered the son, you could tell, but he wasn't the fighting type, so he just kind of took it. Yes, but I'm not the one that slept with his mom, he slept with mine. It was pretty actually. It's the sort of things that ruin friendships and trust with parents. It put me in a horrible situation of deciding whether or not I should tell my father, still married. I was having a chill night at home with my girlfriend, my friend, and my mom. We just finished having supper and we started drinking. At one point my mother, my friend and I were getting fairly tipsy. We started arguing about politics, and since my mom and friend have similar views, they kind of ganged up on me. We were all getting a bit frustrated about that, and my girlfriend could tell, so she told me to just go to bed and forget about it, which left my mother and friend alone upstairs. Now this may seem like a bad idea, but my mother has always been very cool with my friends, but she isn't by any means. So the fact that he would attempt something never occurred to me. Fast forward a few hours later, in the middle of the night, my girlfriend wakes me up and tells me we have to GTFO. I'm still in my drunken haze sleep and I just agree. As I'm starting to come to, I realize something's weird. My friend comes downstairs and passes out on the couch. I go upstairs and my mother locked herself in the bathroom. I'm just really confused, but I don't think much of it. My girlfriend and I decide to go get some McDonald's. When we finally get on the highway, my GF looks at me and starts to cry and tells me that for at least 10 minutes before I woke up she heard banging noises upstairs, similar to noises two people king would make. I start to get furious, but it still seems unimaginable that they would do that. So after I promise my GF that I will not attack the guy, we decide to go back home. At this point, I have no idea if it's true or not. For all I know, my girlfriend was probably dreaming. I get home and tell the guy to call himself a cab. Mother is still locked in the bathroom. The cab comes and the guy goes home. I end up going to sleep at my GF's house. Fast forward 1 month. I haven't talked to the guy since. My mother denied everything, said that the friend tried to initiate something and there was kissing involved, blah blah, but no sex. At that point, I say it, nothing I can do. Then, out of nowheres, a certain person that works in our regional hospital sends me a message asking me if I knew about my friend that was in the hospital a few weeks ago. I get pretty confused, and that's when I realized that the guy tried to commit suicide after that happened. Now I'm pretty shocked to hear all this. I decided to contact the guy and finally get the record straight on the situation. He tells me that he did in fact sleep with my mother, that he regrets more than anything else, and that he is ever so sorry. I tell the guy that I don't hate him for doing that. After all, alcohol was involved and, you know, sex. I just told him that I was disappointed he did that to my family. I asked him to not contact me for a while because I don't want to talk to him, and that's it. I also confronted my mother about the ordeal. She still denies it to this day. Who wouldn't, right? She is still with my father, which doesn't know what happened. I told my mother I would not be the one to tell him, and that it was her responsibility to do it. Since that day, I've had a few nights of drinking beers with my dad, and this is tearing me apart. Friend is 21, mother 54. Yeah, not as bonerific as some of the other stories on here, but I did. My mom's friend was basically in between my mom and I's age. We had a big get together, lots of people, and we all got drunk. I caught a ride home with friend, didn't end up going home, but to her apartment. Sex wasn't that great, but she gave amazing head. Only chick I've been with that could actually deep throat like Heather Brooke. Heh, though she wasn't nearly that hot. We both agreed to never speak of it, but I'm sure that my mom found out about it because she's dropped a few pretty clear hints that she knows what went down. She's still friends with the woman, and it's goddamn awkward. I just say hey, X, and then walk off whenever I see her hanging out with my mom. Edit. Clearly I misread the question as has anyone ever banged their mom's friend? And not their friend's mom. Lol. Still, I think it's in the same general area. I have a guy friend who has ked his best friend's mom and sister. He has also ked me. Story request edit. There really isn't one. All separate occasions at least a year apart. Everyone involved was blackout drunk during their turn. The daughter knows I hooked up with her brother, the best friend, and the lucky guy, but she doesn't know about her mom. We have all decided that she will never be allowed to find out. Happened to someone I know casually, but we share a lot of mutual friends. His mom was recently divorced, and he walked in his best friend, a horn dog with a pretty long rap sheet of sexual depravity, taking her from behind. He immediately turned around and joined the military. Wish I had more details, but I can confirm this much. I think the fact that his friend was such a devious person sexually added a little extra salt into the wound. I'm dating my ex-GF's mom, and we had sex last night. So me and my ex broke up a while ago, and we moved on. I started to identify as poly, and met this really sexy businesswoman at a food market, and we chatted it up and became friends. She was older than me, early 20s, and she was late 30s, which I never minded, since I loved older women. We became FWB, and she was warming up to me having other GFs, and we soon fell in love. We started our BF/GF relationship and things were amazing. Everything just felt right. She was monogamous with me as that is just who she is, and I was poly W/her. She also works crazy hours and has a very busy life, but she loves it and that's what counts. So, months pass and she invites me to meet her family at a family gathering. I'm excited to meet her family, not so excited to learn her ex is gonna be there though, a little nervous about that. We walk through the door, and she introduces me to her daughter, my ex. Eyes get wide, ex runs upstairs crying, my GF and ex start yelling at each other upstairs. My GF's ex-husband is giving me death glares for getting with his wife and daughter, and I stand there awkwardly for 5 minutes listening to my ex tell her mother it's not okay to bang her ex-BFs. The party ended up being pretty good, but my ex was still pretty at me, and the ex-husband and I avoided each other the whole time. She has an awesome family and we are still happily together. Well, I actually banged my ex's mom if that counts. Backstory, my ex and I had split the day before and her mom, who always referred to me as her future son-in-law, called me and asked me what happened, ECT. I explained briefly and said there were a couple of things I needed to pick up from their place, and she told me to come over because my ex was out with some friends for a few hours. I show up, she sits me down, and we started talking about what happened, and she offers me a glass of wine. Being 19 at the time, who am I to say no? After the third glass the conversation got a little flirtatious and the next thing I know she asks me if she could kiss me. I was pretty buzzed, depressed and at that moment pretty turned on. She kissed me, our hands started roaming, and the next thing I know we are in her bedroom going to town. The best part was my ex came home and walked in on us, and her mom just screamed, "Go to your room." Believe it or not, I have a friend that has slept with both my stepmom and my stepsister, weeks apart from each other. The stepmom was a summer night on the back porch after entirely way too much Jagger, and he boned my sleazy stepsister a few times. The stepmom thing I did not see coming, but he is kinda a dirty Judas. Slept with my best friend's mom and my friend not only knew, he encouraged it. What you have to understand is me and my buddy John were in the same platoon. When you've been through war you really bond. It's hard to explain really, it was a different time. Anyway he had a picture of his mom, nothing bad just a headshot, and trust me, she was smoking hot. I kept the picture of her, and I'll admit that on lonely nights I wanked to her photo. Anyway when I got sent back, John actually encouraged me to find her and hook up with her. He was worried because she was all alone. I met up with her at a nightclub and damn, she was even hotter in person than she was in the photo. She was a bit nervous about me at first, but she warmed up to me eventually. The sex was amazing. I'll give you some more details later if you want, but I've got to make some homemade explosives now. It won't be long before that Terminator finds us. I was friends with this guy. We'd go over to his place, smoke doobs and drink beer, watch movies, just hang out. I was a bartender and his dad used to come in and flirt with me. One night a few of us went back to their place after my shift and drank some beers. I got drunk and went to the dad's bedroom to pass out / sleep it off. Later that night, they joined me and went down on me for a while. Then we had sex. I left the next morning. This happened a few times. Once with him even coming over to my place. I told him I wasn't interested in a relationship and he was fine with that. Eventually, I had to end it and he wasn't happy about it. He'd call me talking about how much he missed my in his mouth. He'd send me sexy emails about how much he liked eating me out and tasting my juices on his chin. It was fun for the time, but it just had to end eventually. Good memories though. I'm pretty sure the son knew. We never talked about it, but his bedroom was across the hall from his dad's, and I'm not known for being quiet, especially if I've been drinking. I had one friend whose mom probably slept with about 5 of our friends. My friend would have parties and his mom would hit on all of us. His best friend was the first one to it. Then a bunch of people just started doing it. It came to a point where she would throw parties and her son wouldn't even be home. I know he found out and was furious about it. I think he only found out about the best friend, but not the other 5. Yeah, I have. She was our neighbor and recently got separated from her husband. She was 36 with 2 kids and I was 18. Cut to the chase. I once visited her and she was just coming from the bathroom. I came in, sat at the living room while she finished changing, and we kept on talking. She then calls me in her room and me thinking she had done changing. I opened the door without knocking. She was just putting on her bra and I could not stop staring at her. I excused myself, went back to the living room, and sat there with a massive boner. She later comes in, makes me some juice and we start watching some show on TV. She sits right next to me and by now, she knew I had a boner. I started flirting here and there, and I kiss her. She kisses me back, and we start foreplay and I dry hump her, and just as I'm about to remove my pants, one of her kid wakes up. She jumps up to take the kid back to bed. The kid had a nightmare and doesn't want to sleep. I say my byes and head home with some blue balls. I text her the next day, me being nice and I'm now flirting with her, and she calls me back to her place. The kids had gone somewhere with a friend. I got into her house even without saying hi and started kissing her. She was an amazing lay. Well, she ked me more than I ked her. I think that's the only time I came twice within an hour. I'm getting a boner typing this already. I would not say he was a friend, just an acquaintance / co-worker. I worked in a call center with this guy. His mother eventually applied and got hired on as well. Both the guy and his mother worked a level under me, but I was not a manager or anything. Pretty much his mother owned a pawn shop a while back, and she was an ex-stripper with an awesome job. After a couple of weeks his mother is constantly asking me for help and hitting on me. She could actually flex her breasts, like you see people do, and it was amazing. She would stare at me across the floor late at night, when few people were working, and flex for me. After a few weeks of her flirting I told her she needed to stop, because it was putting images in my head. She said sorry, I just know what I want, and I go after it. 2 nights later, while her son is out at his girlfriend's I go over, and we go 2 rounds that night. What was actually awkward is that she told me she talked it over with her son before I even came over, and he was cool with it. The next time I saw him at work, he asked me if I had fun. I said yep, and everything was cool.